Hi everybody. So this video is really for Brittany, Shannon, and Megan. I'm going to teach them how to make my Aunt Maggie's, which all this time I thought it was my Aunt Margaret's and my grandmother's biscuit recipe. And my mom kindly reminded me that no, it was my Maggie's recipe, and she taught all of her sisters. So really excited to be sharing this recipe for them because it's really, really good. They're light, airy, reminds you of those old time Southern biscuits or Midwest biscuits because my mom's family is from Oklahoma. So let's get started. So I want to share with you the ingredients first. So I use flour. It's best to use like either an all-purpose flour, that's what I try to use, and then Crisco shortening, baking soda, baking powder, salt, let me see, butter.
Any particular brand?
No.
No. Okay.
I try to use really quality ingredients, but it's not necessary. But anyway, so salt, and then we have some sugar, and then we start out with 2 cups of flour. I'm trying out this Lily flour because all my Midwestern family and friends and Southern family and friends tell me that Lily is the best flour, and so I had to order it from Amazon because we don't have it in California. So I start out, like I said, I pre-measured everything to make this process go a lot faster. But I start out by shifting the Lily white flour. That's really important because it makes it, you know, light and airy. I have done it before where I haven't, where I haven't shifted the flour and it came out fine, but you definitely can tell a difference, you know, if you don't shift the flour. So just FYI, I try to shift the flour. That's just me. So, and like I said, I do 2 cups of flour. So if you don't have something like this to shift with, you can use one of those mesh strainers and just go like this, tap it, and it will do the same thing. But I like these because it makes it go a lot faster for me. So I'm sure technology-wise they probably have come up with something faster than this, but I've been using this for decades. So it's just what I'm used to doing, so I keep doing that.
You've been using that particular one?
Not the particular one, it's this style.
Because I thought maybe it was that because it's going slow.
No. And I have a jokester for a husband.
Why do you have to keep hitting on it?
Because, you know, I just want to get the last remaining parts out of it.
All right,
I'll
that's
put
awesome.
that there. So that's shifted. So then what I do is I put my other dry ingredients. This is baking powder.
Okay. How much?
1 tablespoon of baking powder.
Awesome.
A ½ teaspoon of baking soda.
Okay.
You have a ½ teaspoon of salt. Then you have a ½ cup. This is like a ½ cup of sugar.
Okay.
And then I usually, sorry about that, I didn't get out my whisk. So then I usually mix it together with a whisk to make sure that all the baking powder, the salt, sugar, all that's evenly distributed, so you don't take a bite of a biscuit and you get a bunch of baking powder or baking salt taste.
Okay.
So I just mix that up a little bit. And then I add in the shortening.
So you did all the dry ingredients first?
Did all the dry ingredients.
Okay.
So then I add in the shortening, and what I do with this.
How much shortening was that?
It was 1/4 cup of shortening. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I usually don't measure, so you can use a pastry cutter to cut the shortening into the flour.
Okay.
I don't know where mine is, so I'm going to use a fork. So if you can see this, I'm just cutting the shortening in.
Okay.
to the flour so it could, you know, have small chunks. I am not the cleanest baker. I tend to get stuff flopped all over the place, so I end up having to do a lot of cleaning afterwards. But so I'm just gonna cut in the white shortening, and you can use butter Crisco shortening, which will probably give it, you know, more flavor. Because I use two different kind of fats. I use the shortening and then I use butter. I go for the regular butter. I mean the regular shortening. But you can definitely use all butter shortening and just increase the amount that you would put in to equal both the shortening and the butter.
Okay.
So this is 5 tablespoons of butter. And
Is that butter salted or unsalted?
This is salted butter.
Okay.
And I grate this in.
Oh.
And the reason why I grate it in is because it gives you, it creates that airy kind of light pocket biscuit, because the grated pieces of fat are going to be like all throughout the flour.
So the butter's cold?
Yes, the butter's cold. For this demonstration, it's been sitting out a little bit. So what we're going to do is, once I grate all this and mix this up, I'm going to set this flour mixture into the freezer for about 5 minutes so it can get back cold, because the trick to great biscuits is a very cold base. So very cold powder base, and all the ingredients mean really, really cold. So as you can see, there, get a closer look up at
I
this.
will.
So I'm just kind of lightly mixing those butter flakes. And this is what you want your flour mixture to look like.
Okay.
So then I'm gonna sit this in the freezer for just 5 minutes.
Just a quick question. That white on your hand, is that flour or are you ashy?
It's flour.
Okay.
So we're
Just
gonna
wondering.
pause. I'm gonna
Okay.
put this in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll add the buttermilk.
Okay.
And biscuits, there's a very delicate technique so that they don't become tough. And I will show you how to do that, and we will get them all mixed in, the dough ready, and then rolled out, cut, and then throw them in the oven. As you can see, my oven is preheated. I usually preheat the oven before I start this so it could be at the perfect temperature of 425.
Okay.
So we'll be back in 2 and 2. Okay, welcome back. So this has been sitting for about 5 minutes in the freezer. It's nice and cold to touch. There's some corrections I want to make. I kept calling this baking salt. It's baking soda. The sugar, I think I said it was a half a cup. I meant it was 1/4 cup. And then I kept saying shifting. It's sifting. I always get that mixed up. I don't know why, but I do. So now the flour is out of the freezer, and now we're going to add the buttermilk to
How long was the flour kept in there?
about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So let me do one thing first. Let me kind of flour my surface. Let me see. Because you don't want the dough sticking to the surface. Okay. And then you're going to mix it with a fork. If you can see this, it's still, see how it's nice and crumbly. That's the consistency that you want. So I'm going to take my buttermilk, 1 cup of buttermilk. It's nice and really, really cold. I'm going to make a well. So a well means that I'm just making a hole in the middle of the flour mixture. And then
Okay,
I'm going to start adding the buttermilk, kind of mixing it together. You don't want to over mix it. That's so important that you don't over mix it. I can't stress that enough. So I'm just gonna get it to where it's starting to form. Get it to where it's starting to form. And then I'm gonna turn it all out onto this board right here. Get a little bit more flour because my seems a little wet, but I'm gonna pour it all out here, and I'm gonna finish making the dough come together on this board. Because like I said before, you don't want to overmix this. It's so important, and you have to treat it very delicately.
What does overmixing do?
I forgot to take off my ring.
I saw that.
Take that off.
All right. So my question was, what does overmixing do?
Either stirring it too much to incorporate.
Oh, what does it do? What's the effect of it?
It makes it tough.
Okay.
See, if you were paying attention earlier, you would have heard me.
You said that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. I missed that.
So I'm just kind of folding it over so I can incorporate the dough. This still feels a little wet to me, which is fine. I just need to add more flour, a little bit more flour. And then I'm just gonna put it together. Don't worry about your hands being all messed up. That's what happens. But see, I'm just gonna mix that up like that. That's it. Like I said, you have to be real careful not to overmix. I'm just kind of folding it, kneading it, just treating it very delicately.
Okay.
Just like that. As you can see, I'm sweeping the flour into the dough. It's gonna be sticky. You're not gonna be able to make it not sticky. But this is like a very tender dough. You can feel it and tell that it's really tender. And so that's perfect. And you want to try to work this as much as possible and as fast as possible, because you don't want your dough to get warm, and you don't want that butter to get warm.
So you put flour on the rolling pin also?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And what I do, and this is the great women in my family, is I roll it and then I do it again. So as you see, don't be afraid if it's too sticky to put a little more flour. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I usually scrape this up, get it into the dough. So, oh, I wish you guys could feel how tender this dough feels. Because really, that is the consistency that you wanted. It's nice.
I'm going to come close in on it so we at least get a
nice,
good look
fluffy.
at it.
You see how that feels? It's nice and fluffy and tender.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you can see how something feels.
Okay.
But yeah, I get it. I get what you're getting at.
So I'm just going to keep folding these because that's what's going to create the layer. I'm going to do it one more time.
Okay.
I'm going to fold it one more time. Then I'm going to roll it out. And like I said, it's still going to be kind of sticky, so don't worry about that. I'm going to quickly wash my hands because I'm going to cut it out now. And this probably will make about 5 or 6 biscuits. Really, you would double this recipe depending on how many people you're cooking for. But for my girls and And for my household here, they don't have like a huge household, so I had to come up to make sure that, you know, they were over making. So these are amazing. These are cookie cutters, donut cutters, any kind of pastry cutter. They're made out of a plastic. They don't mold, they don't rust. They do a clean cut. Love them, and there's all sizes. So I'm gonna just take this, go to the edge. I'm gonna go straight down.
Mm-hmm.
Do not wiggle
Okay.
at all. You just go straight down, you bring it up, and that's it. And you take it and you lay it in the pan. You don't grease the pan, it's not necessary.
It's not greased or it's not floured
It's
either?
not floured either,
Okay.
not for biscuits.
Okay.
You take it straight down again,
Okay.
bring it up. Like I said, it's gonna be a little sticky. It's okay, that's totally fine. And so I'm just gonna continue. See, you're not supposed to do that. I just kind of shook it a little bit. You're not supposed to do that.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see how
Let me come in on it.
these are really just. See, there's a little water in this pan. I don't know why. But anyway, so I'm gonna set that there.
They look like they almost have like layers.
They do
there.
have layers, and that's
Okay.
why I rolled it, folded it, rolled it, folded. That was the whole purpose of that.
Okay.
Because it has, when it bakes, you're gonna see that it's gonna have like these layers.
Nice fluffy layers.
Nice fluffy layers.
Okay.
So I'm gonna finish cutting this out, but I'm gonna off camera. But I want to show you one trick that I learned. It wasn't from my aunt Maggie's recipe. I learned this from a chef. But the trick to make biscuits really golden brown, you can either brush them with butter, brush them with milk or egg whites.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that Best Food mayonnaise, I know it sounds crazy, but just brushing the top of them puts a really beautiful golden brown color on the top of your
I was wondering what the mayonnaise was for.
So I take a brush
Yeah.
and I
Let me
just,
see.
and I brush it. I know it sounds crazy, but you have to try it because it's amazing. You don't taste any mayonnaise after it bakes, but the golden brown that it does to the biscuits is really amazing.
Awesome.
It's really amazing.
And that will lower the calories too, all that mayonnaise, right?
Actually, no.
Yeah, that's right.
No, these biscuits are not for the calorie conscious person.
Right.
Matter of fact, most of my food is not.
Right.
So I'm going to sit this in the oven, get these baking. I'm going to cut up the rest of those, and then we're going to come back and show you the finished product.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So this is our finished product. This one's kind of so hot, right? I made these pretty big. You don't have to make them this big. But I want to show you because they're so tender that they really fall apart. See that? It's so good. So I usually use this because it's easier for me to lift up the biscuits with. But if you look, this not even a knife. Look at that. So that is my Aunt Maggie's biscuit recipe. And you can eat it with jelly and butter, warm syrup. You can make gravy with chipped beef in it and pour it over it. You can do whatever you want. But they are the most delightful biscuits. Very delicious. And as you see, when you put them down, they're really tender. These are really still hot. So,
So let them cool for how long? Or do you need to let them?
you don't need to let them cool. Most people like biscuits really warm.
Okay.
So I like eating them right out of the pan because everything, kind of melts on it when you put
Okay.
it on it. So it's really good, tasty. That's Aunt Maggie's biscuit recipe.
And who did you make these for?
Us. We're having
And
breakfast right now.
who was the recipe really for?
Oh, it was for Megan, Brittany, and Shannon.
Okay.
So